Welcome, everybody. I'm so excited about my guest today, Dr. Chris Griffin. He is the host of the Dr. Chris Griffin Show and podcast, and he's the founder of 3D Printing Association. He is an author of multiple books. He is a practicing dentist and a renowned opinion leader. Really, Chris is on a mission to help dentists increase their productivity. He helps us with workflow and automation and advanced technology. Chris, I'm so excited you're here. Welcome to the show.
Well, I tell you what, Mar, thank you. I mean, that's a pretty tough one to live up to. I'll
Yeah,
do my best to get some portion of that done. But yeah, thank you.
that's
I
right.
appreciate it.
I'll tell you what. So you are, whenever I think about that, I accomplish a whole lot and get a lot done. And then I look at Chris and go, wow, I could do more. Like that's the kind of person you are. And I love all that you accomplish. So you are a master of that for sure.
Well, I appreciate it, man. But I'll just do the best. But I don't believe that for 1 second. You, sir, are a workhorse. So
Well, I want you to just share with our audience a little bit about how you got here, where you're at right now. Give us a little bit about your story.
I graduated dental school in 1998, so a long time ago, the last century, right? And so I got out, went in with my family dentist, loved the guy, thought we were going to practice together forever, had every intention of doing that, buying into his practice, and like so many people, first year of the associateship, it turned out we just weren't meant to work with each other. And so I went my own way in 1999, bought a building, opened a practice, and just started seeing patients. Now, the interesting thing about the way, so for the year that I worked with him, we saw a lot of blue collar patients, a lot of insurance patients. He was a Medicaid provider, so I saw a lot of Medicaid patients. And I didn't really love the way that was. Of course, I was 24 years old, so I didn't, now I look at my
Right.
kids that are 24 and I'm like, they don't know what they're talking about. They have no lived experiences, right? But I thought I knew everything. And so when I went out on my own, I just went totally fee for service, totally insurance free, and practiced that way for a few years. But I'm in the middle of a very rural, Medicaid heavy county in Mississippi. I mean, it's very poor. We're one of the poorest counties in the nation. And, that type practice just did not really work well for me as a 24, 25-year-old dentist. But I was very stubborn, and I may have practiced that way for a long time, just making very little money. The margins were tight. I was trying to do big cosmetic cases, even though I wasn't necessarily as skilled as I needed to be. I'd gone all over the country and tried to be skilled, but I was young. I didn't really wasn't the greatest, and the good Lord sent a flood, closed us down for a few weeks, and and during that time, you know, I could have said, okay, Chris, let's start seeing a few more blue collar patients and just slowly change our business model. But instead, I actually joined up with 20 PPOs during that 3 week period.
You were
So
all in.
so I guess that's kind of my personality, Mark, is just
Right.
I'm either all in or all out. But so yeah, I did that, and then when I joined the 20 PPLs, I'm like, oh, so I'm starting to get a lot more patients, and I'm getting paid about a third of what I was because I was totally fee for service. So okay, I'm getting paid a lot less, but I've actually got patients to work on. So I figured out a lot of systems to allow us to see a lot more patients than I was seeing, and we just took it to the nth level. As much product I did productivity training as much as you could imagine. Studied every kind of productivity you could study, and from my engineering background, lean practice management, all that stuff. And so we got pretty good, pretty efficient. We started making pretty good money. I built my practice up to 14 ops, and it was just me, and so we were rocking and
You were
rolling.
bouncing around.
Oh man, roller skates is a definitely an accurate term for that. And um, so so we're doing great money wise. Now, when you've got a huge practice like that, it's very high volume, low fee. You can make money doing it, but it's a pretty good wear and tear on your body. Your back starts to hurt, your elbow starts to hurt, wrist. Mine's my elbow always. I guess maybe because I play golf. But anyway, I would have kept doing that until I couldn't do it anymore, I suppose, because I'm once again very stubborn. But luckily, the Lord sent me a second message, and this time a lightning bolt struck my building and burned it down. So
All
that
natural
was
disasters. That's
right.
what
So that was,
that's what
yeah,
shifts,
I've been
right?
through all. Yeah, I've actually been in a tornado. Knock on wood, it didn't. I haven't had a tornado wreck the practice yet. I've actually been in a lot of natural disasters, right? But so yeah, the fire burned it down. And so I was up. This was a big one though. It's not just a flood. Let's get Surf Pro in here and vacuum up the carpets. This is actually, hey, there's no building, and so we actually had to find refuge in a an old abandoned nurse practitioner's office, and I went from 14 ops to like 4.5. I say a half because we stuck like a hygiene chair under a staircase in a closet.
Harry
You know,
Potter's room with the hygiene.
yeah, yeah, that's exactly right. And so I had to practice there for 16 months. Pretty humbling. Um, it was rough. My staff, I lost 75% of my staff. And it was like nearly 100 years of dental experience was lost during the 16 months I was in that other building. Lost a lot of patients. Income was very low. Fighting with the insurance company. I know, hey, I know how everybody feels about insurance companies. It's true. Even when your building burns down, they tried to find every way they could not to pay me. Finally, it took an ugly letter from my lawyer, but I got paid, got rebuilt. By now, it's the mid 2010s, so like 2014, I got back into a new building in the town where the fire destroyed the other one, and we started rebuilding. But by now, I was it took everything I had to rebuild the building and get the practice up to the previous levels of production. Once I did that, then I just kind of started letting it go. We quit having meetings. I just started not caring so much. I was like, I'm just not even going to think about dentistry except when I'm in the building, and let's just see what happens. And yeah, I just sort of let it rock along, and I didn't care. And so my production got down about as low as it had been in a long time. And actually, I think I was starting to figure out that I needed a spark. And so I met, in 2019, I got a flyer from Dr. Garg about his implant
Yep.
continuum. And I'd never been good at implants, and I'd gone through a few continuums, but I still wasn't very good at it, wasn't confident. And so I went through his continuum, and actually, I did start placing implants for the first time, and that kind of got me a little bit interested more in dentistry. Um, and then, of course, the pandemic hits, right? And
Yep.
so we're off work for 6 weeks, and I don't know what to do. So I started taking a little 5 mile walks every day around the pasture. Me and my dad live on like 32 acres here in town, and I'd walk 5 miles and I'd take a nap in my hammock every day. Like, I'm not even a nap guy, but every day I would walk 5 miles and take a nap. And I would text my buddies and I'd be like, I hate dentistry. I don't even know if I want to be a dentist anymore. Maybe I should just lecture in college, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, one of my good friends, and you need good friends. Everybody needs a good friend that'll tell you the truth. And one of them's like, hey, Griff, man, he sent me a picture of a book I'm not going to repeat the name of on the air. I don't want to get you explicit or anything, but it was like, what what do you want to do with your life? And so I was like, okay, I will, I will, I'm either going to quit griping or do something. So for whatever reason, 3D printing had always interested me. I don't know if it's way back from when I was in engineering at Mississippi State or what, but I'd purchased a 3D printer in 2013. I didn't do much with it, a little bit of denture work, but not a lot. And so 2020, I got it out. I quickly decided, hey, this thing's too slow to do what I want to do. So I bought a new package, and then I just kind of dove into that. And for whatever reason, that sort of reignited my passion for dentistry. And from 2020 on, man, it's been every year has been our best year we ever had. And I'm thankful. I guess I'm thankful for the journey because it got me
All
to
right.
this place, but it was a long and tortured path, Mark.
For real, that is seriously a lot of bumps along the road. And I love that, you know, along that journey, each kind of new evolution, you found something that got you excited, found something that gets you ignited. And we always need that, right? We always need something that's going to get us excited again, makes us love what we're doing.
I do. I have to have that. I'm a deadline guy. if I don't have a clear vision of what I'm after, I just get very lazy, very complacent, and just truthful, you know.
Yeah.
So I need a little pressure, you know.
Yeah, that's all of us. That's human nature. And so now, just because it is your nature to go all in, it wasn't like, oh, this 3D printing's interesting. I'll do a little bit in the office. Now you teach 3D printing. You've got people coming into your office to learn 3D printing. You've started an association. Like you've written a book. It's not just a little bit of dipping your toes in. You jumped in.
That is accurate. Yes. I don't know how. I don't know. I don't guess I know how to do the toe dip thing, right? So
Right.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, like one of my, one we're developing a new class right now on a surgical guided root canals, and so I'm always looking for something new we can do with the 3D printing, and I like to do new stuff more than I like to maintain old stuff. So I don't know what that says about my personality, but I'm definitely the guy that would rather go out and find new stuff to do than get bored pretty quick. But as long as I keep finding new stuff, I'm good.
Well, I'd love to because I've had a 3D printer and I've used it a little bit here and there. Not, I'm excited to learn from you, and I'm actually coming out to one of your classes in a couple of months, so I'm excited to learn more about
Glad to
how I
have
can
you, man.
use, yeah, how I can use my 3D printer. So, but I've had it for a few years. So I've used a mill. You use a mill. I love Ceric. But I'd love to know, where does the 3D printer shine? Like, where is it taking over? When do you use it for, what materials do you use it for? When do you use it for crowns? Where's it at right now?
So in my office, of course, the first thing we teach too, you've got to just find a way to stop using alginate and stone in your practice, because that's the gateway to doing everything more complicated, is to just do all your models 3D printed, because that'll help you learn a lot about the process. You get better at 3D printing, and also you don't make a lot of money by swapping over your models to 3D printed models, but it gets you ready for all of the more complicated stuff. And so, and also, by the way, once you master making models, now you can do all your clear aligner cases in house. So that it shines there the brightest. If you
Hmm.
currently do clear aligners, you're probably paying, if you're using like Invisalign Clear Correct, you're probably paying around $2,000 a case. A little bit less than that if you use somebody like Sure Smile, but and those are great companies, but once you can make models in house, you can do all of your clear aligners in house. There's no reason not to. And like my overhead on a complete comprehensive ortho case for an adult is, 200 bucks total.
Oh, that's
Everything,
incredible.
everything in the can, 200 bucks. You it might be another 100 bucks for you when you start out, because maybe you want to pay somebody to design your cases for you, and that's totally cool. That's what I do. That's what I did in the beginning. Is I had a company that I was using their software. They designed the cases for me. They would send me the models already planned out. I would make the trays on top of their models, and then give them to the patients, just like as if I were using Invisalign. So that's where it shines the brightest. And then for me, I have a really soft spot for dentures. Like we do a lot of dentures. It's Mississippi. I mean, come on. So we do a ton
Yep.
of dentures, and so as far as like the strength of 3D print dentures is very good now. Maybe it's not quite as good as your standard heat treated polymethyl methacrylate dentures you've all grown to know and love, that the lab makes, but it's close enough that it really doesn't make a difference. And they're just so much faster and less expensive. So we can make a really good looking denture for, say, 30 bucks an arch, all in. So, I mean, I think that's pretty good. I mean, it's not like a big lick like you're doing with the clear liners, but it's pretty good. But it really shines in the fact that you can do these things same day if you want to. Now, we usually do a couple of days lag time, say between an immediate denture, a patient comes in, diagnose them, scan them, and then have them ready in a couple of days. That's a nice, comfortable pace. But like when I go on a mission trip, we've done 33 partials in a day, and then last year we did 25 partials and two immediate dentures in a day. And so I mean, that's the speed at which you can produce a good looking denture is where it really shines. Okay. Um, I mean, sure, if you want to send off and have a real fancy, if you're like a prosthodontist and you're charging who knows what for an arch, you might prefer to do it the old way. That's fine. But if you just want a really good looking quality denture and you're a general dentist, it's hard to beat a 3D printed denture. And if they break a 3D printed denture, it's just as simple as pushing a button to print another one, right? You're out another $16 the second time you print it, right? So it's just, it really
Yeah.
shines there too. And then, you know, like Dr. Gard, taught me implants last. And so he would say in his lectures, you want to be able to freehand all your implants. And that's true. You want to know how to freehand your implants. But once you've placed enough implants, most people I know prefer to use a surgical guide on easy implant cases, especially. And so surgical guides, it really shines there. You don't really save a ton of money, but the speed at which you can get a surgical guide case, get the surgical guide done and get the patient in and do the actual procedure. I mean, it's unbelievable how fast you can do that. And if you're not into guided surgery, oh my goodness, it makes implant cases so easy.
Yeah,
So
it's quick, so fast to place when you have a guide.
unbelievable. And you can put implants like the other day I was going to have to kind of squeeze a 10 millimeter implant in close to the base of the sinus. If I was freehanding that, Mark, we're talking
Yeah.
about taking forever, taking a bunch of x-rays and, maybe trying to do a sinus bump or whatever. Man, I threw this thing in, locked it into the hard bone at the base of the sinus, perfect position in about 5 minutes with a
Yeah.
guide, with a guide. It's just unbelievable how much faster and more precise you can do a guided case when you 3D print them.
I love that.
Um,
Now, with
so
I question about dentures. So when you're printing dentures, and I've printed some dentures as immediates. So, and when I've done that, I've just printed it in A2. So there's no pink, there's no gums. It's just one solid piece. Are you printing two different colors and you glue them together? How does that work?
when I started out, I did the monolithic printed dentures, and I would paint the gingiva on there.
Yep.
And you can certainly do that. That's a good way to do it. It's a good sturdy denture that way. But then when I switched to doing printing a denture base and printing the denture teeth separate and then bonding them together, I found no reduction in strength, and the appearance to me just looks so much better. And it's also quicker. It's a lot faster just to bond together the pink base, the white teeth, bond it together, cure it, and you're done, as opposed to trying to characterize a white denture base
Right.
and make it
Turning it
look
pink.
like
Yeah.
pink gingiva. It just takes
Yeah.
forever. And truthfully, most of the time to me, it still looks too pale.
Yeah.
So I think that the printed separately is definitely the way to go.
You know what I love about that too, with the few that I've done, uh, I mean, that's a great final denture if you want to do it that way. If you want the lab to make a denture, um, when you can print them so quickly, it's inexpensive. With immediate dentures, it's always a little bit of a roll of the dice. And you're hoping you get something that works right, and then the tissue's changing a lot. And when you can print something, oh, I made you a little bit too big in the teeth. It's pushing your lip out too far. Let's pull that back. It's a quick shift, print again. You're not sending it to the lab. They're not doing a whole remake.
Right.
And then you get what you really love. And then if you want to image that, tell the lab, duplicate this. This is what I want. And you can have the lab fabricate it, or like you said, print that as your final and make that your denture. I love that. I'm excited about, because I do where I'm at, I do a lot of dentures as well. I live in a small town and we have a lot of dentures. So I love being able to do that and provide that better service for patients. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, it's so much easier. I mean, um, what I to 3D print an immediate denture, and then in 6 months, if you want to make, you can. It's more complicated, a lot more complicated to make a 3D printed complete denture than it is an immediate one, because the digital bite's one of the hardest parts to do. It can be done, but it's really pretty complicated. But
Yeah.
but if you want to, like, at the end of 6 months, now you can print a second denture that matches the first one that you've already got the patient used to, you can print it out of any material. It doesn't have to be denture material. You can print out a model material and then use that as a denture to take a wash inside and send it to the lab. And now the lab knows exactly what size to make everything. So that's a great
Yeah.
time saver, and it gets the case, right after, easier for the lab to see what you would like for them to do.
So you kind of talked about the obvious advantages of keeping a lot of this in house, and that huge financial advantage. Um, so that's probably number one. Uh, but also, I think it's just fun. You kind of have a lot of fun when you work with these things. And then another advantage that I would see is that when we have control, and I see this with CEREC, and so I'm looking forward to that with the dentures a little bit more. Um, but with CEREC, once I started making my own crowns, I did a lot better job at making crowns. I prepped better. My design was better. I had control. Like everything improved. My game improved when I was seeing the steps along the way. And so I kind of see that same journey with 3D printing.
Yeah, I just laugh because, man, if you haven't tried to design your own crowns, you just do not know how bad your preps are. You just don't even know. In
Absolutely.
fact, you'll say the first after you see your preps and you can zoom in as big as you want to, you'll be like, "Holy cow, my lab is awesome!" because I am awful at this. And it maybe the preps are even if the preps are okay. Guaranteed, if you're not the one doing the scanning, if your staff's doing it and you're not double checking them, you will be shocked at the scans. I mean, these scanners are awesome, but they cannot see through blood. They cannot see through tissue. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
it will shock you, and then it'll just make you a better dentist once you start doing it yourself.
Yeah, I love that. So what do you have your team members do? Because that's really how you're going to make this more efficient. I mean, we don't want to be spending all our time in the lab. And so what do you do? What do you have team members do? How do you balance that?
Well, so I mean, my team members do a ton. Um, I mean, I used to teach a course years ago called Assistant U, if that tells you anything. So I believe in maximizing your assistants. Um, and so let's say for a crown. So let's say I diagnose a crown in hygiene. Now, I diagnose it. After it's diagnosed, we have our hygienist. They have a scanner, so the hygienist will scan the patient upper, lower, and a bite, and so that file then gets sent to Lapita, who in my office, she used to be my office manager, but now she actually runs all the digital stuff. Like we feel like we've created a new auxiliary in dentistry. Me and her kind of developed it together, call it the digital technology assistant, because she's in charge of everything digital, hardware, software, design. Then she does the milling and the 3D printing and everything. And she's almost like a lab person who's also really good at the digital side, the design and everything. So we scan them in hygiene. She gets the file. Then she usually, if we're doing zirconia, so yeah, I'm kind of torn, Mark. I mean, I'm a big CEREC guy too. Sam Puri, he was a professor of mine at the University of Tennessee in 1998, and he wrote a chapter for one of my books. And so I have tons of respect for CEREC and same day crowns. Having said that, even though in my hands it still works a little faster to make a temporary than do the milling and then get them back in a couple of days than to have them sit here all day. When we rebuilt the building after the fire, I didn't rebuild 14 ops. I just rebuilt 9. So I don't have the premium of just tons and tons of chairs for people to sit in all day.
Yeah.
And so we're pretty fast paced. So they'll scan the patient, send the files to Lapita. Lapita then can make a shell temporary that's in the perfect shape, but it's a shell, so it's only like a millimeter thick or whatever. And so then we go chair side, we numb them up, prep them, and scan them whatever way we're scanning. We still do some same day, especially in December. We do a lot of it because we're trying to get them seated before the 31st. But
Yeah.
if we're doing normal protocol, zirconia in house, then we'll scan them. Then either use the laser or use some paste. Actually, if you don't want to use your laser all the time, I use my laser sometimes, but most of the time these days we use this paste that has astringent in it. It's like, I think SB makes the paste we use. Put it in the sulcus, and then we take that shell temp and we put it down over the paste, and the edges of that shell temp just push that paste down right around better than cord ever could. And then have them bite on gauze for a couple of minutes, take it off, rinse it, and now it's a really nice scannable surface. You didn't have to get your laser out. So then they scan it. Then once it's scanned and looks good, then they just fill that shell temp with a composite-based temporary cement, pop it on the tooth, and when it hardens, it hardens. Now it bonds to the shell temp part. It glues it onto the tooth also, and that's just the fastest way we found to do temporaries. And so now the patient's off. We take those files upstairs. Lupita, then she designs a crown. Sometimes we use AI, like with 3Shape Automate, but most of the time we just use regular software that's not necessarily AI software to design the crown. And then put it in our mill it, center it. I've had a couple of milled zirconia resins I tried to rush too quick after the heat that I cracked,
Yep.
and so we let them cool a whole day now, or nearly a day, and we usually cook them and then they cool overnight, and then we go to the mouth just like as if we'd ordered the crown from a lab. And you can get inexpensive zirconia these days, so you're not saving like scads of money like you do with Invisalign cases. But I just like the ability to do it not necessarily same day, but very soon to same day. And of course, like say in December, when you really put the screws to us, we can do them same day, obviously.
Right. Yeah.
But that's kind of a combo 3D printing slash milling protocol that we would use for something like that.
So with you, is Lupita, is she chairside as well, or is this like her full-time thing is to manage
Well, it's
the
pretty much her
digital?
full time thing. She started out. She was my chairside assistant number 3. Then she became my lead chairside assistant. Then she was so good, we put her over the entire clinical department. So she was the clinical team leader. And then she was so good at that, she became the entire office manager, which I never even really liked the title office manager, but she was just so good. That's what we did.
Yeah.
And then after COVID and we really got into 3D printing, I said, hey, look, you know, I know that I'm going to miss you being an office manager, but I think that this other position could turn out to be something more valuable for the office. And we'll figure it out together. And she was willing to do it. So I moved her upstairs, and we just started building around her, whatever she needed. And, that's it. 4 years later, she is turned into, an integral part of everything we do here. And so I don't really want to even think about what I would do if she quit. So let's not talk about
We'll
it.
keep her happy. That sounds good. So even you said, and it must feel different for you having 14 ops and now you have 9. Of those 9 operatories, I'm curious, how many are hygiene ops and how many are your ops?
I've got, so when I built the building, I built 10 ops. We only ever plumbed out 9. So one end of the building, I have 3 hygienists and 3 chairs. And then the fourth unoccupied room, we use it as like a kid's room full of toys and stuff. And then I have 6 chairs on the other end. And now I'm a big efficiency productivity guy. And I don't think that's the most efficient, productive way that you could align your hygiene rooms and your doctor's rooms. But here's what I would say. When I rebuilt, I never ever wanted to have the hygienist tell me, hey, let's turn the air, I'm freezing to death, let's turn the air up. So I put them way on the end of the building and I gave them their own air conditioning unit. And so even though I have to walk a little ways to get to their rooms, I don't ever have to worry about, them
You've
being
got you
freezing to
got
death and
comfort
me.
zones perfectly
Yeah, we
perfectly
keep my
matched for
side
each of you.
nice and icy. So
That's perfect. I love that. So, and then for those 6 operatories, you like you said, you're an efficiency guy. Um, you keep rolling. You keep those pretty busy.
oh man, yeah, we're busy. I mean, it's not like it used to be. It used to be crazy busy. We do so many more bigger, we do bigger cases now than we used to really. And so I would say on my side, we're seeing 25 to 35 patients a day, which, that's not crazy, but it's busy enough. Um, but yeah, those we have 2 rooms, we kind of call them exam rooms, and then 4 rooms that we can do any procedure in the building in. We could do big procedures in the other 2 rooms if we want to, but the chairs are a little bit older, and so I don't like them as much. So we kind of have 4 really good rooms and 2 exam rooms that can do stuff if we have to, but I really hate to.
And how many assistants do you have that are working when you're running those rooms?
Three assistants.
And I do that as well. And I tell people that I have 3 assistants, and they think that's a little crazy, but they're busy 3 assistants. And if one is sick, it's a tough day with just two.
That is accurate. So here's what I'll tell you what we do, Mark, is if one of my assistants gets sick, I actually have a hygienist who's an excellent assistant. Um, she wants to be a hygienist, and she's a great hygienist, but she's also a very good assistant. So if we know one of my assistants is going to be out, she actually moves over to assist me as a third assistant. I still have to pay her like a hygienist, but that's fine. And then we hire a fill-in hygienist to take her place. So that's kind of how we manage that.
That's great. That's perfect. Yeah, I just have a tough day. So I'm glad you figured a better solution.
Man, I'm lazy. I told you I was lazy, Mark. Come on.
Yep, that means I'm in the back trying to figure out the digital dentistry instead of my assistants when that happens.
It's a bad day if Dr. G is back there trying to figure stuff out in my office.
So, you talked a little bit about your journey, kind of big picture, and how you got here, and even some of your frustrations when you were feeling like, "Hey, I just don't really love this anymore." Are there things now that frustrate you in the office?
Yeah, not my staff is so good right now. They're so good to me. Um, you know, after COVID, we've almost turned into a family. It's kind of how I feel about it. They may not see it that way. It's kind of how I feel about it. And so I can tell you, man, I don't feel that way anymore. I got plenty to do. Like I say, I get asked to lecture a lot. Heck, wrote that book. I mean, we do courses here at my office, and I see patients 3 days a week. That's plenty for me. I believe I can do that for a long time, unless I have a bike wreck,
That's right.
right?
Don't crash your
Then
bicycle.
yeah. So no, I don't feel that anymore. And for 3 or 4 years, I felt that way, and I've always kind of felt bad. My family. I'm the first person who's not a farmer in my family, plus something else. Like one of my grandpas was a farmer and carried the mail. The other one was a farmer and worked for the forestry commission. My dad was a farmer and also a banker. He farmed like 400 acres after he worked a 40-hour week. And so, from I felt really ashamed during those 3 or 4 years. I was kind of not feeling it because I'm like, man, your ancestors worked so hard and you're sitting here still making a great living. Why are you feeling that way? Right. So, I don't know, but after COVID, I've really not had that problem.
Well, a lot of that, I mean, you talk about your team and they're supportive, and that is such a critical part of us loving our office is having the right team around us. But your team is supportive because of the effort you put into your team. And so if anybody has a chance to listen to Chris talk about just training teams and efficiency of teams and keeping the team accountable, you're a master of that. So that's a lot of the effort you put in to build that family for sure.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it. I know you'd have to ask them if that's accurate, but I hope it is.
Yeah, I'm sure they have a thing or two to say about
Right.
it. So, I'd love to know, I don't believe in failure. I don't think there's failure. There's just feedback. I think anytime we come up against something that didn't work, then that's a great chance to say, oh, I'll try something different. When you look back at things you've tried, what would you say didn't go well that you had to pivot or you adjusted to?
Well, no, I agree with you on that. Every time that I screw up, I just like, okay, well, that's not the way to do that. So, like I said, first trying to be a 100% fee for service cosmetic dentist in a town of 6,000 people when half are on Medicaid? Probably not a great idea, right?
Yeah.
Alternatively, trying to be on 20 plus PPOs, not the greatest idea, right? Early on, I was really, I had my own place at age 25, and most of my staff was older than me, and back in those days, I was such a soft-hearted person. I used to try to let my staff sort of tell me what they wanted to do, and I think somewhere around the mid 2000s, I just decided we're just going to do it this way, and that's just the way it's going to be done. And then when people complained, it didn't bother me because I knew I had figured out the vision and the direction that I wanted to go in. Until I had that, they could sort of buffet me and move me and confuse me and make me think maybe I was doing something wrong. But once I got a real
Yeah.
clear vision of what I wanted to accomplish, then it was almost like they were waves breaking on the rocks, and it didn't really matter what they said. And so I was so happy when the day came that what my staff, tried to coerce me to do that I knew I didn't want to do, when it no longer bothered me. And I'm not big on firing people. I've only fired like 3 people ever. But man, if somebody's not doing right these days, I mean, we make their life to the point where they're either going to do right or they're going to quit. So that's how I keep those kind of people away from me now, that are just always looking to try to do it their way, or not the way that you wanted to do.
Yeah, you've established that culture, and so everybody there's a pretty clear understanding of what it needs to be now. I think that's amazing. I love it. So, what do you see? What are you excited about now? What you're always kind of on the forefront of what's happening and seeing what's next. So, what are you seeing? Whether that's in the world of 3D printing, or maybe AI, or maybe a combination. What are you seeing that gets you excited? That's coming down the pipeline.
Well, so I mean, gosh, I don't know how you could not be excited about AI. AI is just it's becoming part of everything we're going to do. I don't know if you have, Mark, have you got that AI software for your radiographs yet?
I do. Yeah, yeah. We use Overjet. I mean, there's a couple different softwares, but yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, so I've got the other one. I only know of two, but I've got the other
Right.
one, and you know that's crazy because I mean I really try hard to diagnose well. I try to make sure my hygienists are taking great X-rays, but I'll be man almost every day that thing will find something that I probably would have glossed over and not really
Yeah.
focused in on, and so it is unbelievable. So that and the way they explained it to me, I think is accurate. Like the computer can see 5,000 shades of gray instead of 50, what the human eye can see. And so, yeah, so just clinically, AI is already helping me. At least I'm sure it's going to help everybody. And then the ways that's coming. I just got through taking an 8-week class through Harvard Medical School, an executive class on AI and healthcare, and I was in there with guys from hospitals and small clinics, every kind of doctor under the sun that you can imagine in this class. And so to finish the class, you actually had to come up with your own AI project. They call it a capstone project, but I had to come up with a project on how I would integrate AI into dentistry. And so I probably never do it because I'm thinking it would take like $20 million to start up. But but yeah, I mean, I heard what all these guys were talking about hospital settings, and AI is just coming. One of the greatest things, boy, AI is there's not be long before AI is probably going to be writing your notes. I mean,
Yeah.
right now there are softwares where you can walk into a room, record the conversation between you and the patient, then it transcribes it, organizes it. You can organize it into soap notes, for goodness sakes. And so the notes are going to be pretty much done for you coming down the pike. Now, I don't know how that's going to, I haven't figured, I don't do it yet because I'm not 100% sure on how the HIPAA plays out with all that, but
Right.
it's coming. It's
It
coming.
is.
Wouldn't surprise me if Bill Dickerson's dream of the front deskless practice were not a reality in 10
Starts.
years.
Yeah.
I mean, he wrote that book in 1998, maybe. I mean, it's coming, man. AI can
Yeah.
answer your phones better than your receptionist, probably.
Well, I was
Um,
talking to the folks at Logic, which are using AI for that front desk role, in, not replacing receptionists, but helping us with understanding when we have a phone call, it recording that phone call. One, did we do a good job? Did we meet the patient's need? Do we need to have a follow-up? And what got exciting is making that connection to exactly what you said, the conversations that are happening in the chair. And so then what follow-up needs to happen? Did that patient schedule? Do we need a prompt that says, hey, there was this conversation you had about aligners and the patient was kind of interested and then didn't schedule. Maybe we should send a little email out in a month. It's all that kind of stuff that is pretty fascinating to me.
Oh, and Mark, when you come down here, I'm going to show you the analog way that we track big cases to make sure they get done, because we could never keep up with big case. If a person didn't schedule immediately for a big case, their case would just invariably get lost in our software. Just it's somewhere in Dentrix. Nobody's really able to dig it out.
Yeah.
Maybe we think about it again in 6 months when the patient comes back. So we've got an analog system we've been using based on some of those lean practice management systems that's done great for us. I mean, it is just amazing what it's paid off for us. But man, there's no reason why Dentrix couldn't get an AI assistant to run in that software and do the same stuff and just come out every morning and say, hey, you need to call so and so. It's been
Yep.
4 weeks since she said she
Yeah.
really wanted that cosmetic case, but just needed to talk to her husband. And so I think all this is coming. It's going to make it's going to change dentistry. I don't know exactly. I hope that we like it, right?
Right.
I think it's going to probably for sure make staff size smaller, which I don't necessarily love that. And it's not going to happen immediately. I think it'll be gradual. But there's
Yeah.
just going to be some stuff that staff does that you don't necessarily, the front office jobs especially, some of that's just not going to be 100% needed. Maybe you convert everybody to clinical type stuff. I don't know, but
Yeah.
I think that's coming.
That is, yeah. It is. I'm excited about it as well. I'm thrilled. I'm all in anything AI that's coming out. I'm playing with and practicing. And interestingly, not related to dentistry, my kids at school with Chat GTP is a big problem, right? And the school is freaking out and they're trying to not let them use it. And I'm the opposite with my kids. I'm like, this is like early days of calculators when we had to do everything longhand. And then now you get to use a calculator for every test and every assignment. And I
Right.
think it's not that, it's more about teaching them how to use the AI to maximize its benefits and then get better. So if you're just putting in some information and spitting out a lousy report from AI, that's no longer, we're expecting you to actually come up with something incredible because you know how to use it and you're using it much better. And then you're adding your own flair to it. So
Yeah.
it,
I can't
it
imagine being a teacher because just a funny story. I had a patient this month. She's in college, and she said that she had turned in her final paper in literature class, and she swears that she didn't use Chat GPT other than just an outline, and then she wrote it. But the teacher sent the TA to tell her, "Look, the teacher thinks you used Chat GPT for this. They don't know for sure, but if you'll rewrite it, then we won't penalize you." It's like, man, so I guess that's how the teachers are doing it now.
yeah,
I mean, who knows such a gray area, man? I mean, who
it is.
knows?
Eventually it's going to be like calculators where it's, you got to use it because we're writing things that are so complicated now that we need the help.
Oh, I'll tell you a cool little thing I did with Chat GPT. So you know how everybody has a big office manual with all the rules, but nobody ever
Yeah.
reads it, even though they probably say they did when you hired them. Have you got that same
Right.
problem?
Oh
Okay.
yeah, of course. We all do. Yeah.
So, and then they'll come and say, "Oh, hey, by the way, when am I eligible for vacation days or whatever it is?" So
You're like, it's in the book.
yeah, I just uploaded our office manual into Chat GPT, made a little chatbot assistant out of it. So now nobody asks, just everybody go to Chat GPT. We keep it open at one terminal for the staff. Go type your question in there. It answers it, and you just don't have to ask that question anymore. You're obviously not going to read the manual, but at least you can type
Yeah.
your question
Now
into
you can
Chat
search it
GPT.
easily. Yeah.
That's right.
That's perfect. That's exactly what we need to be doing. I'm excited about the future too. That's awesome. Well, I love your enthusiasm. Thanks for coming on. I learned a lot. I'm excited to learn more about 3D printing. I'm excited to get out to your place and hang out with you for a few days.
Oh man.
Thanks.
Well, hey, look, hey, can I offer your listeners a free book?
Yeah, absolutely. That would be really cool.
So let's see. Here's the book. So the book, 3D Printing and Dentistry, I'm really proud of it. It took me like 9 months to write. So if you want to get a copy, you go to free3dbook.com and just shipping and handling, you can have it. So I don't know how long I'll do that offer, but for a little while anyway, and for you guys till, for Dr. Mark here for however long. But yeah, I'm pumped
That's
about the
great.
book, and you're going to use that as a textbook when you come for the class, Mark. So
Perfect. Ah, I love it. And then, so other than getting on to get the free book, how can people reach out to you? How can they find you?
So, pretty much everything I do is at chrisgriffinDDS.com. If you go to chrisgriffinDDS.com, you can find a link for anything that I do. You can get, we do a newsletter every week, a podcast, which we already talked about. My goal for 2025 is to be very consistent with the podcast. You're way better than me. So, but yeah, you can go to chrisgriffinDDS.com and you can even find the free book link there if you want to. So, pretty much everything.
I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been a blast.
Man, thank you so much for having me. I hope we solved a couple of problems for somebody. And yes, if you need me, just reach out. I'm happy to help.
Awesome. Thank you very much.